Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I wanted to go straight to our all hazards weather map because the storm system we've been discussing this week has certainly come into fruition, and the models have done a very good job forecasting this. We have a widespread icing threat that's going to be in through this corridor, which will hit the northern edge of our southern region. We're going to see it in a few minutes. Well, blizzard warnings are out for parts of the north central plains, and it is bitterly cold air behind this that will eventually be making its way early next week down into our southern region. Now, we take that arrow off there and identify a region that, thankfully, in the near-term forecast out through the next week, is going to see much less precipitation than we have seen over the last week. But as this system gets going, well, this is what it looked like early this morning from about midnight through about 5 a.m., showing us our precipitation type and intensity here. So we can see the pinks indicate where we did have some light freezing rain last night through parts of northern and really into the panhandles of Texas and then into parts of Oklahoma. And because the system is lifting, it's on quite a bit of warm, moist air that's coming out of the Gulf here. Because it is lifting and pushing toward the Great Lakes states, we will see a transition over to an all-rain event as we progress forward with this system. Okay, so over the last 24 hours, we have been getting precipitation in an area that we need it. And that is because here in, well, parts of the Four Corner states, but definitely down in parts of South and Central Texas, things have been exceptionally dry for quite some time now. And we're going to be answering a question at the end of this video as to what are the longer-term both precipitation and temperature trends as we progress through the rest of January. And I've got brand new long-range outlook for February to be discussing, so hang on to the end of this. And the reason why I bring that up is because we're watching this area carefully, as well as the drought that's right now ongoing in the Four Corners states, because we know that if that drought survives into spring and expands into spring, it has the ability to migrate over toward the Mississippi River or over here into the Ozarks or spread into the southern plains. And we have to watch that very carefully because historically drought in those two areas likes to move and migrate a bit north and east. Now, we'll have to see how the rest of winter could possibly undo that drought. But in the meantime, I just want you to keep an eye on it with me, okay? So let's get right into our high-resolution models here. We can see this was early this morning where we had the widespread light freezing rain. But as we play this forward, let's pause it right here and walk you back again. There we go. Try it one more time. Here we go. So if we see this again, we notice that that precipitation is going over in Oklahoma to rainfall. See that? And the freezing rain spreads into Kansas and Missouri. I think the targeted area for the worst of the freezing rain event is going to be somewhere right in through here. Let's call it St. Louis to Columbia, coming back over to Joplin. If you kind of complete that, maybe that rectangle right in through here, that's going to be the area that gets hit the hardest. Because the system, again, is pulling toward the north, we go over to a cold rain in Oklahoma. And then as the system moves into Illinois, we can see that our main frontal boundary then stretches by the time we get into early tomorrow morning, early Friday morning, through Missouri, right down this section of the Mississippi River through Memphis, and then back here over toward, well, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Right now, there's no concern that these thunderstorms are going to be severe. In fact, most of this will just be rain showers. And thankfully, the amounts, which you're going to see in a few moments, are relatively light as it passes through parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, back into Mississippi and Alabama. Now, I say light relative to what we have been seeing, which has been an incredible amount of rainfall here, not only over the last week, but over the last few weeks, where some locations inside the area I'm circling here have seen in excess of 500% of normal rainfall. Well, this system finally, by the time we get into the evening on Friday, moves into the northeast, and the main frontal boundary just brings scattered showers right here through parts of North Carolina, going right through Raleigh, and then all the way back down here into parts of southern Alabama and Mississippi. So after that system moves out, we're going to have several days of quieter weather, colder but quieter weather as we begin next week. So let's take a look at what those precipitation amounts are going to look like. What's left here, so this gets us out and through early Monday morning, you can see that we still have the ability to put down in this corridor here maybe another 3/4 to an inch of rainfall. Now remember, some of this is going to start off as freezing rain and then convert over to rain. So total liquid equivalent in this northern part of our southern region here, possibly getting a pretty good dose of rainfall. If we look, though, a little bit to the east, just as that frontal boundary comes sliding through, rainfall amounts are generally relatively light. We're talking anywhere between 1/10 to 2/10 up to maybe 3/4 of an inch of rainfall that could be coming right in through this area, right in here, in and around Memphis and northern parts of Mississippi. Other than that, because the frontal boundary weakens as it gets over here to the coast of the Carolinas, precipitation amounts will be very light in this area. Now, looking at the days following that, so this will be Monday morning through Thursday morning next week, we do have another system that emerges toward the end of the week, but it's going to be relatively dry in this area throughout much of next week. So much of this, what you see here, which we need this precipitation to come into this area, this is coming in at the end of the time period. I'll show it to you in a few moments. But if you just look over here toward the southeast, well, let me just go over there and show it to you. After that system comes through and the cooler weather arrives, we got a dry week here, and I couldn't be happier to tell you that, given how wet things have been in this area. So let's see it all in our European model. If we just press play here, we'll pause it right there. So we've seen the system already progress through, and it moves to the northeast, and like we said, leaves a little lingering frontal boundary here, such that by Sunday morning we could be getting some light precipitation stretching in through this area. Now this system is going to be quite windy, as you can see, the tightly packed isobars, but it's this high pressure cell we've been talking about all week that finally slides down and placed behind it. So going into Monday, I'll just do this quickly, Monday into Tuesday into Wednesday, you see that during that time period, much of the southeast stays on the drier side. With the high pressure cell moving over here, bringing in the cooler but drier weather, it'll be the periphery around it that we start to advect or move in that moisture again. And as a consequence, we could be getting some precip moving back into this area. Now, as I play this out beyond next Wednesday into Thursday, you can see that Texas, especially Thursday, getting into Friday, that's where our next system emerges, and then it possibly, it's a lot of details that still need to be solved here or uncovered, it possibly moves to the lower Mississippi River Valley and then eventually here over into the southeast. So we're watching again middle and end of next week for this next system to skirt right in through this area. So a little bit different than the big monstrous low pressure systems we have been seeing, but it is yet another chance of rainfall. We need to talk about why, even when we look longer term, we need to keep an eye on this area for having wetter than average conditions, okay? Because the latest week 2 outlook shows this area being wet, which we do need, but we don't want the excess precipitation here. So the questions I'm trying to answer are, what is the jet stream doing in the polar branch coming into this area, and how much of a contribution do we have of the subtropical branch coming out basically from Hawaii to taking aim here on the southeast? Because we certainly have seen, you notice I've been showing you this all week, that our week 2 model runs want to paint this area on the wetter side of things, okay? So I think to answer that, I want to take you up into the upper levels of the atmosphere. We're looking straight down to the North Pole here. The blues represent troughs, and the reds represent ridges in the flow of the jet stream. Now, as we play this one forward, we can see that the trough that you see right here that comes in by the time we get into like the 17th, so early next week, this is going to be the one that allows the colder air to come in as a ridge builds out west. Now after that, what I want you to keep an eye on is how the upper level flow pattern tends to want to put broader scale troughing in this area. So watch, I'm just going to play it for you so you can see it. Keep an eye right in here. See that? Now that trough that keeps setting up shop in there is not connected. So it was just there through much of the end of next week through all of week 2. And that particular feature is not fully anchored to or connected to deeper cold air that's sitting here over the Arctic. You notice that there's a trough that develops here south of Greenland. This is not the right setup to get cold air to stay in place over the southeast. We'd want to see a big ridge here pushing up into Greenland, therefore forcing the cold air back into this area, so we don't see it. What we're actually seeing a reflection of here is strong winds coming off of Japan, you'll see in a few moments, and a strong subtropical jet stream coming together to lower heights. That's why we continue to see the active pattern across our southern region. Now, how do our temperatures respond to this? Well, this is looking, I want to show you temperature anomalies. It kind of gives us a better reference on how the change is going to happen. So we will notice that as this first system emerges, so this is valid Friday morning. Let's click play here and pause it. This first system, as it emerges, brings up the warmth. Remember, the system lifts, so we're going to see throughout the day on Friday into Saturday morning temperatures 10 to 25 degrees above average here as the system pulls to the north. Right now, because of high pressure sitting here in the northeast, we still have some cooler air, I'll say, more seasonable air stretching down through the Carolinas. But this system pulls through, there it goes, and then the colder tongue of air we've been advertising for a while now kind of sneaks in behind it. This is Sunday morning. Let's get you into Monday morning. Now watch, you will see throughout much of next week our southern region hanging on to a 5 and then sometimes a 15 degree cooler than average bias. So you see it coming in here. This is now Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, into Thursday morning. So our southern region has a cool start and middle of next week. But you notice going over the top of it, much above average temperatures have started to surface here. And we need to discuss what's going on to give us that temperature trend back over toward a warmer pattern here, because it will eventually impact the south and southeast as well. So let's stop this here a week from now, and let's go over instead to looking at our kind of composite maps. So over the day 5 through 10, so this gets us out to the evening of the 26th, we've started to see the rebounding of warmth in this area, and that will slowly start to rebound our temperatures here over our southern region. So going back to normal after a week of below normal temperatures beginning on Monday. We then see that as that trough really starts to set up shop here, the cooler bias hanging on over the four corner states, that's going to keep parts of Texas on the cooler side of things, but the warm-up we're seeing in the eastern half of North America does extend into the southeast as we look out to days 10 through 15. Now this has been a trend, especially over where I put that X, that we've been seeing in the models over the last few days, and it has a lot of us just going back to trying to understand what's really controlling that trend. So I want you to kind of read with me these bullet points over here in the upper left. I said, as long as. This week I've made a case for a strong polar vortex. Remember, if it weakens, that's when we get some cold air spilling south. The North Atlantic oscillation has been positive. What does that mean? We've had troughing in the North Atlantic, not ridging. Therefore, the south and the east have been on the warmer side of things. The Mad-Julian oscillation has been avoiding phases 7, 8, 1, and 2. These phases. It's only temporarily going to go over into that cooler phase, and it seems as though still the model's going to take the MJO back over to null phase and have it emerge in these warmer phases once again. The jet stream coming off the Pacific Ocean is very strong, therefore it tends to split here, giving us a stronger subtropical jet stream. And you can just think of having a strong subtropical jet stream as pushing the polar jet stream a bit further to north. That's maybe a way to think about this. So as a result, we come up to this conclusion I put down here at the bottom. We're going to go on a bit of a roller coaster ride with temperatures, but getting sustained bitterly cold air to just set up shop and stay across our southern region, giving us big snows and having really inclement weather, I don't see it in the forecast right now, okay? We do get cold, don't get me wrong there, but we just don't get a pattern that locks us into it. This is a very fluid and moving pattern, and it's been a tough one for, I think, for me and several others to kind of pin down and predict. Real challenging forecast here given what our teleconnections are saying. So here's the end of the video. We had released early this morning the brand new long range outlook, and I'm going to show you again for February. With the polar vortex staying strong, the Pacific jet stream still wanting to split here, we continue to see our southern region showing up on the wetter side of things as we move through February. Now please, I know this is an unfavorable forecast given how wet we have been in this area, but it appears that the jet stream is not breaking away from the pattern that it has been seen. What does this mean in terms of temperatures? Well, we can see that overall, with that stronger subtropical jet stream flow, seeing near average and even at times a little bit warmer than average temperatures in our southern region, extending from eastern Texas through the Carolinas, is maybe a more favored flow pattern. What will change this is if we can get blocking either over Alaska or over Greenland. Now, if we keep putting a split flow in the west, this will be the pattern we continue to see because that flow pattern brings in the cooler air here, the subtropical jet undercuts it. But if we can start to push a big ridge into this area, this will allow that colder air to come south. And there's a chance that that could happen. But right now, the brand new model runs have been quite consistent with the previous runs about 4 days ago. And I think this is maybe just a good place to finish with just something to think about. I'll let you know that I'll be researching it over the weekend. We'll give you brand new updates on Monday, okay? Have a great end to your week and weekend, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.